for a long time you were back. You were back in the era of stapled together zines and pre Amazon and all that kind of thing, and you were pretty early into ebooks. And you're pretty early into a lot of things because you've been doing this a while. So, kind of looking at your career, when we get to Dying Days, I know there was an iteration of that was earlier before it became the series itself. But was Dying Days your first real push into a series of books?
Yeah, I think up to that point, I hadn't really written too much but short stories. I had probably 100 short stories that were written, and I was really afraid to move up. Death Metal, the original version of Death Metal, was about 28,000 words, so it was like a novella. That came out January 2006. But before that, I really hadn't written anything longer. And then there was a company that had a call for an extreme zombie novella, and I wrote Highway to Hell, and it was crazy. Like from the opening line, it's just really something. It was way out of my wheelhouse with violence and everything else, but I really liked the story, and it didn't end up winning. They only took four novellas for it, but the editor said, "I really love this story. You really should do something with this." So I released it, and at the same time, I had been writing short stories with Darlene Bobich in that same world. How would this normal girl who worked at a makeup counter? She's not, I mean, she's not gorgeous, she's not ugly, she's just kind of normal, little chubby. How would she survive in the zombie apocalypse? And that was the start of what was then became Darlene Bobbitt Zombie Hunter, the first Zombie Killer, the first book, and then it went into Dying Days. At that point, I was like, you know what? I want to write this as a series. I want to see what I can do in this world because I knew there was so much more to it. And I was driving home. I was driving home on A1A in Florida, and there was the gorgeous beach to my left. And of course, in my mind, I'm like, what would happen if zombies just came out of the water? You know, what if they just came out? I mean, you always see zombie books are always dark. It's in the city. What if it was like in beaches in Florida on a gorgeous day and people started getting attacked? So that was kind of where Dying Days started.
Now, roughly, can you remember when that first novella was written, and then when you finished book nine? Do you have those dates in your head at all?
I want to say 2009, maybe the first one came out, or I wrote it. Probably 2008, 2009. I wrote that. It took a long time, and it's really only like 30,000 words or 35,000 words. It took me a long time to write that one, and I think it's been 3 years now since the last one came out. At one point, I was doing the Winter Zombie and then the Summer Zombie tours, which I started and you took over for a number of years. So every June was a book, and then every November was a book. And so I was putting out in that world. I was putting out two books a year, just doing that. But there's a lot of other side. There's, I think, a half a dozen
Right.
other books that are also set in that world. So I was writing a lot in that world, and I got to about book six, and I knew, you know what, I don't want to do this forever. I don't want to do 30 books. And I was kind of, and you and I had talked about this back then. I didn't want to be known as a zombie author. You know, I wanted to be known as a horror author or an author. I wanted to do other stuff at that point.
Now, book six, I don't want to do any spoilers or anything because I've read them and we could go into a lot of depth about them. But
There's zombies and
yeah,
spoiler
yeah,
alert,
yeah.
there's zombies.
There's zombies and bad stuff happens. Right around I guess it's right around book six. Now that you mention it, maybe into book seven, where you really did start kind of experimenting and going different directions with it, and even in some cases exploring big topics like characters going through big evolutions and even coming to realizations about God and other things like that. Was it partly that, or were you just at a point where you were going to take it in a different direction, whether you were planning to end it or not?
I think by about that point, I knew I wanted to end it. I knew I didn't want to do a ton of books, and at around book five, right after book five is when I started six, and I think I was hitting a groove with a lot of the characters, and I wanted more. I wanted more than this same old, or I knew that would probably be the last book. So yeah, I do explore some of the characters, their beliefs in whether it's belief in God or anything else. I really wanted more to the series because it gets really easy in zombies to just let's have some action, let's throw in some zombies, let's have some action, let's throw in some zombies. And I wanted parts of those books where it wasn't just about the zombies. It was really about the characters. It was really about interaction between certain groups and whatnot. So at that point, I think I was probably about halfway done with six, and I said, you know what? Even though I'm a total pantser, I knew this was a 9-book. I knew where Darlene needed to go, and it gets it. You know, some writers, readers, whatever they are, some readers have said it gets there's a lot of fun. You really hit your stride with the action and the dialogue and the interaction with the characters, but you also tap into some really deep subjects like God, like life in the universe and everything that you really didn't hint at too much in the beginning of the series. And I think for me that was just me as a writer evolving, and basically doing a better job of it.